So how does TAEC integrate ICH into its activities? I'm now going to go through all of those activity categories again and talk about how we try to work on ICH. So first, research and documentation. What is the purpose of research? For TAEC, and I think for most museums, we do research, particularly primary research, so meaning we go out to do field work in communities, but we also do secondary research in order to develop exhibitions and to document and better understand the collection objects and the context of the objects that we have in our collection. So it is very much focused on the exhibitions and on the collection objects itself. There are several different ways, though, in which we try to do research and documentation that is ICH-led. So I'll go through these five topics now. So first of all is about building relationships. We do go out to communities to do field work, anthropological style field work. Generally, when we go into a community, we first approach formal village leadership. So in Laos, that means going to village chiefs that are called Nai Ban, and the elders. And so this means that we're first going to the traditional kind of governance structures in the community, because that's the sort of official way of doing things. However, very soon after going through that and talking with them, having them know our objectives and what we're doing, we generally move into looking for community resource persons or community knowledge persons, people that we feel are willing to share and are interested in sharing aspects of their culture with us. We try to seek community resource persons and knowledge persons that are young or old, women or men, so different people from the community. And this is part of the trying to find different voices in the community. If you talk to an old man or you talk to an 18-year-old girl, you'll probably get very different kind of information. We do build relationships with the community. So generally the communities that we visit, try to visit them over and over again, at least once a year. We stay in contact with them by phone. And we try to be quite informal about it as well. It's not I'm an anthropologist and I'm sitting here and interviewing you. A lot of it is more chatting. You can see there's a picture of me chatting with a Dailyu woman. And there's a little bit of give and take as well. We generally try to bring photographs back to the community after we've done photo documentation. We have offered some communities emergency sort of medical assistance where they've needed, so bringing, if they've said they've needed medicines and that kind of thing, we've kind of gone out and come back to support to what extent we could. And we've also gone a step further with some resource persons and invited them to come and visit our museum. So after working with them, we invited them to come visit. You can see at the bottom there a photo of a Yao woman and her two children visiting us. We try to use quite an informal research methodology, so we don't set out with a hypothesis. So that means we don't set out necessarily with a very strict research question. We might say that we're looking into this community because we're interested in Taoism, or we're interested in looking at the way in which tourism has been affecting their community, but we don't go in and say, well, these are the 20 questions we're going to ask and we want to find out what the answers are. What we try to do is more qualitative than quantitative. I think this is generally anthropological field work. So it's kind of trying to look and explore things to maybe a more deeper level, understanding many different facets of a topic or an idea, not necessarily just trying to find out, well, exactly how many drum makers are there in this village, but what does it mean to be a drum maker? How did somebody become a drum maker? You know, something about the practice. We have also really tried to look at issues of change and development. So we are not looking at simply talking to old people and talking to them about how things were done in the past. We've also been looking at kind of issues in which, like we were mentioning, tourism, or for example, in a community that's been resettled, how has that kind of affected the community? So looking at topics that also are contemporary, that are new, that have been coming up. One of the ways in which we've been doing that is through participatory cultural mapping, kind of working with communities to help them come up with an idea of what the cultural resources are in their community. Also, what are the sort of issues for their community? What do they feel are kind of the problem areas? And we do a lot of observation and participation as well. Okay, documentation of ICH. How do we do that? Documentation, again, is kind of quite static in the way that by its definition, that meaning it's just kind of an unchanging, it's freezing things, but it's important as well to document some things. One way we do this is through photography. So the photographs that we take are not posed generally. We try to often take series of photographs that document a ritual or an activity of some sort. I'll show you some pictures as an example. We also do life stories. So one of the things we've started doing is recording through tape or through video people in the community that are resource persons and having them talk about their life. Where were they born? How did they grow up? How many brothers and sisters did they have? How did they work? What happened to them during the war? What does it mean to be, Hmong or something in there in today's life? That sort of thing. And that's something that we haven't necessarily always used in our exhibits so much, a little bit, but it's something just a way of humanizing, I would say, the information that we get. And currently, actually, we're involved through Montira, actually, a program to document traditional children's games in Laos. Here you'll see this. These were photographs we took in February of this year of a Yao Mun or a Lenten wedding ceremony in one of the communities that we've worked with for 3 years since we started, actually. And you'll see here that we're kind of taking photos of a girl who is preparing to get married, and she's putting on her wedding crown. We have thousands of photos, by the way, and a whole other issue is how to archive and manage all of those photos, but that's another issue. Also, one thing that I wanted to just add here, because it was mentioned earlier in Christina's talk, is about how collection items can be used by source communities themselves. And actually, TAC in its collection has 2 of these wedding crowns, Lenten wedding crowns, which are nowadays quite rare. So far in our research, we haven't found any silversmiths that are still able to make these anymore, at least not in Laos. They're made of pure silver, very intricate. And actually, when we went to this, to go and document this, we brought the wedding crowns along so that the community was able to use them as well. So we try to kind of do a little bit of borrowing and exchange with them. A new, well, not so new, about a year old or so, kind of approach we've tried to take now is by using community researchers. This is very challenging. I'll talk more about that later. But through our work in communities, we've oftentimes identified young people who are very interested in their culture, interested in mediating, helping to translate, to help us. And we've been trying to work with them as community researchers. These are people that generally have not been further than high school. None of them speak English. And they have no formal anthropology or museum background. However, they're just interested people in their community who are interested in talking more about their culture. We have had to guide them a little bit using questionnaires and topics and that sort of thing, so it's not like they're just researching on their own. But there's a kind of a double objective here. One of them is to try to support more people from within a community to document their own culture, rather than just outsiders like ourselves going in. And second is sort of revitalization. One of the problems when we talk to a lot of ethnic communities is the older people say the younger people are no longer interested in their culture. Whether that's true or not is debatable. We're not sure. However, one of the reasons we thought this was interesting to identify young people, first of all, young people are the ones who can read and write Lao, which is a prerequisite, and can use a phone. But second is that by having them, young people, kind of try to investigate and think about their own culture, so reflect on their own culture, we hope that they could become community leaders in kind of showing that they're kind of proud and thinking and learning about their own culture as well. And again, it's very dark, but in the middle there, that boy holding the paper is one of our community researchers, who is also one of our ethnic youth interns.